Consistency. And so take that to the bank in anything in your life that you want to accomplish. Small things done consistently create results, period. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Grit Meets Growth podcast, where we bring you inspiration and insights focused on getting uncomfortable, making things happen, and creating a magnetic life. If you enjoy the messages you're hearing here, please leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes of the podcast. With that, let's get after it. So I'm going to dive right in here.
Oh my God. You really want to jump right into it already?
Right in, man.
Like I'm just not even warmed up yet.
My wheels are turning. There's a lot to talk about today. Episode 38, you brought up how in the world are we 38 episodes into this beast? And consistency. The gold nugget, let's dive into the first gold nugget of the day. It's consistency. The reason we're 38 episodes into this is because every 2 weeks we committed to putting out an episode, and every 2 weeks we do. 38 weeks in a row, 76 weeks in a row. Consistency. And so take that to the bank in anything in your life that you want to accomplish. Small things done consistently create results, period.
And honestly, we've had some bumps in the road along the way. You know, we've had guests that we were supposed to record with last minute, not feeling well, can't join. We've had some guests whose schedule has changed. We've had our schedules that have changed, but we still find a way to make it happen.
And I would say alongside of that, we've had days where we didn't know what we wanted to talk about. And if you asked both of us, do you feel like recording today? Probably not. Probably don't feel like having a conversation today, but we're going to step in and do it because that's what we do. It's what we said we were going to do. And we're going to maintain consistency and keep doing it over and over and over again, because that's how you make things grow. So
I'm going to show up and I'm going to give it everything I got today.
Even when I don't feel like it.
Right on.
Yeah.
Again, another lesson learned from the gym.
100%. It is a gym lesson. It's a gym lesson. It's a hill lesson. It's those lessons we pick up keeping ourselves fit and healthy and strong carry over to every other area of our lives. And in all reality, if you're not fit and healthy, or at least working toward that in some way, you're probably not going to see results in the other areas of your life that are important to you. They're too closely tied together to neglect one for the other. It just doesn't work.
By the way, dude, you must be getting some sleep last week or so. You look better.
I have been. You know what I did with that? I prioritized sleep. I realized that I wasn't sleeping as much because I'm trying to cram a ton of stuff in. I got a ton of stuff to do, lots to get done. So I'm going to neglect sleep. And you called me out on it. And you weren't the only one. I had a couple other people who are like, not as blunt as you, not, hey, you look like crap. But I had a couple other people call me out on it. And so then I doubled down on sleep. And I'm like, you know what? I am going to sleep in today. And I don't have to get out of bed at 4. Like today, I'm going to sleep in. I'm going to get my time in and invest in that. And it's made a huge difference. So.
Yeah, honestly, sleep is one of the most important things. It should always be top of the priority list. We can't function. Our body doesn't have time to recover, right? If we don't sleep is that time frame that allows our body and our minds to recover. And we need to be prioritizing that. It's important. You can't run on an empty tank. The car doesn't go down the road without gas.
It goes back. You got to refill the tank. You got to recharge. You have to make room for that. And like when you're working on big things and you're all excited about your goals and all of that, like that's huge. But if that's the only thing and you give up time to recharge, you give up time to refill your tank, you give up time for fun in the midst of that, eventually working toward that goal becomes a grind, and it becomes something you don't like anymore. You develop a hatred toward your goal because it overtakes. And that's a dangerous place to be and to live and to spend your time. You have to have some kind of balance, and balance not being everything's in perfect balance all the time, but balance being, I'm going to go hard in this area for a while, and then I'm going to go hard on sleep, or I'm going to go hard on fun, and I'm going to like keep things in check.
Yeah, I think keep things in check is a better way to look at it. I don't believe in balance. We've talked about that. Balance doesn't exist. It really comes down to prioritization, and what you want to keep at the top of that priority list. So as much as we want to talk about keeping things in balance, and screw that, it doesn't work.
It's that keep it in check.
You have to have priorities, and you have to focus on what that priority is.
As we've talked about, there are times when you're going to have to double down on something and make that the priority and give it more attention than other things in your life. There are times when you're going to be out of balance, so to speak. It's just a matter of making sure you circle back. Like if all you're going to do is grind and work, and that's where you're going to spend all of your time, eventually you're going to have to circle back for family and fun, and like fill that bucket, keep that in check as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you getting ready? You got your trip coming up here.
I'm T- on the backpacking trip.
Awesome.
Short amount of time I will be landing in Nepal to trek, which I'm stoked about. I'm excited about it. And you and I talked about this a little bit offline. It's this weird combination of excited and nervous. A little bit of both. So
yeah. And we were also talking about how, when we talked about the 7 pieces in the recipe of grit meets growth, this, build for the future, which is number 7. Building your legacy, making an impact on the world, and focus on what matters most for you. Those are the components that make up that number 7. I think this trip falls dead center right into that.
absolutely.
You're making a mark, and you're going for yourself and for others, and leaving that legacy. I mean, this is one of those legacy trips in my mind, as you've told me about it.
And it's one of those trips too where there was a restlessness that built up inside of me from sitting behind a desk for years at a time. And I would even attribute some of that to the pandemic and having to shift gears and everything that went along with that. But there was this restlessness to do something uncomfortable. And as I've had buddies that have been to Nepal before and have trekked through Nepal, and the conversations that I've had with them have been very blunt, honest recently about, hey, here's what you can expect out of this trip. Like, you're going to be uncomfortable on this trip. Your flight to get to Nepal, the hours you're going to spend in airplanes and airports are going to be a lot. You're going to get to Nepal, and to get to wherever you're going to start trekking from is going to be uncomfortable. You're going to spend time in a Jeep on a probably a forest road or a dirt road trying to get to your launch point. That's going to be uncomfortable. There's going to be a lot of uncomfortable things. It might rain. There might be leeches. It might be hot. Like, all of these things about the trip that you can't control, you're going to have all of them coming at you at once. And you're going to have to just get comfortable with being uncomfortable and being flexible. From the time you leave the airport till the time you land back in Minneapolis, you're just going to have to be comfortable being uncomfortable and not get stuck on some expectation that you built up in your mind that is not going to be reality.
Right. Well, in that trip over there, talking about sleep, you're going to have to prioritize sleep.
Christina and I were talking about that the other day. I'm very good at sleeping in odd spots and odd circumstances. Like, so the idea of sleeping on the floor in an airport just to catch 3 hours, if that's what I have, or sleeping on a plane for that matter. I'm pretty comfortable with that. Or sleeping outside. It will be intense for a lot of this trip. I'm comfortable with that as well. So,
Yeah. Speaking of sleeping on airplanes, I've always found that putting my pack on the tray and then I could lay my head right on that pack works out well.
do you miss the Coca-Cola that comes past, or the drinks, or do you just sleep through it?
I get it on the return. They make enough treks in those international flights that it's not going to matter.
That's one of the things. It's just speaking about Coca-Cola for a second. That's one of the things that's come up on this trip is as you get out into the mountains, the water's no good. Like there's water, but you got to filter everything. And one of my buddies told me, like, you can drink Coca-Cola because that's generally pretty filtered and pretty good, but the rest of it, you have to filter it. And as I've been prepping for this trip, gearing up for it has been a big part of the preparation. Like, there's the physical preparation and the mind preparation, all of that, but the gear that I'm bringing in my backpack, from the water filter to the tent to just everything, making sure you don't pack your fears, because at that point your pack would weigh like 100 pounds because you would over prepare for whatever was going to come. But also on the other side of that, making sure you have the necessities as you get out there, so you're not caught unprepared for situations when they come up. Getting the right gear, packing the right gear has been huge.
Yeah, you can't pack for every scenario. I'm finding the same thing on motorcycle trips, right? When we take cross-country motorcycle trips, you can't pack for every single scenario. And having the right gear does matter immensely, because you only have so much room. Just like in a backpacking trip, you only have what you are taking, you have to have with you. Or, you buy it. In my case, on an, cross-country trip, you're not going to have so much of that luxury in Nepal to go buy something, right? So, but you have to realize that whatever you're taking, like, you've got to carry it. It's kind of like when we fill our mind up with garbage. Why do you want to carry that all around?
We should be, along those lines, we should be pickier about what we haul around when in life with us. I think
Agreed.
It's easy we look at our past and we carry around regret. We carry around opportunities that we missed. We carry around things that we're frustrated about. We look to our future and we carry around anxiety about our future and what's to come. And is it all going to play out perfect? And this is exactly the way I want it, so I hope it plays out exactly this way. You have to think about what you're going to carry in the present. What are you carrying with you right now? And all that past stuff, you don't have to haul that with you. You don't have to carry the past envy, the past regret, the past anger. You can let all of that go. Forgive what you need to forgive. Go through those exercises. You don't have to carry that future pressure either. You can be where you're at right now and enjoy where you're at. And that's one of my buddies who's been to Nepal. It's one of the things he told me is, in the middle of the uncomfortable, which you're going to have from start to finish, there's going to be stuff. Don't forget where you're at. You're in Nepal. Like, you are hiking through Nepal. This is a huge opportunity to go someplace amazing, experience something, test yourself, get out of that restless spot that you're in, and just, like, don't forget where you're at. Be where your feet are.
Right. So as you've been preparing yourself for this, what are some of those ways that you've prioritized things in your mind, kept potential fear at bay, dealt with the anxiety of it all, right? The unknown. Talk to us about what's some of the techniques, what you've done to kind of deal with that.
I think just even last week, you and I maybe talked about this a little bit, but last week was the week where all the preparation up until this point, like, there's been plenty of getting out early, doing workouts early, doing uncomfortable stuff has become habitual. So that part of it, I feel physically trained up as well as I can be. And in all reality, where I'm at right now, I feel good, but there's nothing I can do about it, even if I didn't. Like I'm as trained as I'm going to get to go on this trip. So I feel good about that. But last week was the week where a little bit of anxiety kicked in, and you asked what I was scared of. And I bristled at that a little bit. I'm like, I'm not scared. And then the more I thought about it, there have been a couple of things that I'm scared of, scared, uncomfortable with, like uneasy about. It's the things that I can't control. So I'm like a control freak, right? Like I love to try and control everything. And on this trip, I'm not going to be able to. So that's where the fear and the anxiety has come from, is the like, what if this happens? What if that happens? And that's where you have to be able to stop yourself. If you feel yourself start to swirl down that spot, right? Like it'd be easy to camp there for a while. Like, here's what I'm afraid of on this trip. Like, what if I get hurt? Or what if, I don't know, there's like, what if something bad happens at the airport? Like, make your list, right? It'd be easy to camp there. And what I've tried to become super aware of where my head's at. And when I feel myself leaning toward those spots, to literally stop myself. I had a conversation this morning. It's like scratching the record. Like, you can't just let the record keep playing. You got to stop it. You got to scratch it. You got to jar yourself a little bit and say, okay, that's where my head's heading. What's reality? Because a lot of the things we're afraid of, and a lot of the things specifically that I was anxious about on this trip, I'm previewing what bad thing could happen. It's probably not going to actually happen. But if I let myself build that up in my head, well, what if this happens? And then what if that happens? Well, you can go down that rabbit hole for a long way. But if you stop yourself and you say, you know what, that's probably not actually going to happen, and I feel like I've done everything to prepare for that if it did, now I'm just going to let it go. That's been huge. Scratching the record. And that's not like a me thing. Somebody else came up with that. But being able to put that scratch in the record and jar yourself a little bit when those thoughts come in, being aware of when those negative thoughts come in, has been a big deal. Because there's definitely been a river of them coming.
Okay, absolutely. I mean, the what ifs are constant, right? We face those every day. I think we have to give the what ifs a little bit of credit, right? I have to actually process that what if, especially as I'm preparing and packing and knowing, okay, I kind of apply it to what we do in the security world, right? This whole risk management space that I operate in with my company, Octellient. You have to identify those things and then figure out what you're going to do with it. Sometimes you have to put a control in place. Sometimes you have to accept that risk. And that's the same process that we have to go through with these what ifs in our world. And for you preparing for this trip, okay, so all of these what ifs and these things that are coming at me that are causing me, potential anxiety. If I'd really drill into it, what is the root cause? What is the root of that? What is the situation? Am I prepared? Have I packed the right stuff? Yep, check it off the list, right? Move on. Kind of compartmentalize things a little bit more, right? And the what ifs, I think, come at us in these big packages. But if we distill it down to what is the root of it, it really isn't that bad in most cases. And we can deal with it and we can move on. And I was also going to say, trying to control everything in an environment that is uncontrollable will stifle your trip. You will miss stuff because you're so focused on trying to control what's right in front of you that you miss what's over on the side. Let go, man, and enjoy it. And be a bit of a free spirit.
That's one of the things that I've been chewing on is there's a part of me that was like, oh, I should pack a GoPro and I should get video of the whole thing. And I should take as many pictures as I possibly can. And like all this stuff. And I've worked really hard to dial that in, because I don't want to get so keyed up on taking in the trip through a lens that I don't take it in. It's like full on. Like, I don't want to be so present in a 2x3 box that's in front of me, seeing the world through that little piece. Like we always talk about that. Like, it'd be like if you took a paper towel holder, the cardboard insert, and you just took the whole rest of your trip. You were going to do this, and that's how you're going to see the whole trip. I don't want to see the trip like that. I want to experience it fully and experience all of it. So I'm really trying to guard myself as I get prepped to go, like, to get a little bit out of that capture everything mindset.
Yeah. Enjoy it. Take it all in. Be able to tell the stories. We live in this digital world that, go to a concert, everybody's got their phone out and recording. It's just not me. It's not how I grew up. Like, I think we miss, as you mentioned, we miss a lot when we're looking through just that one aspect. It doesn't allow our peripheral vision to really kick in and enjoy what is the situation.
It goes back to be where your feet are. And that applies to every part of our lives. If I'm in a meeting with a client, or if I'm recording this podcast with you, or I'm at my kids' lacrosse game or a concert, or out to dinner with my wife, be where your feet are at. Like, be present right there, and quit trying to multitask and do all these things, and just be where you are. That's super challenging. And it is hard to do that in this society where, like, phones dinging, watches dinging, everything's dinging, there's noise, whatever. But if you can push all of that down and you can push up wherever you're at and just enjoy that moment by moment, there's a lot of gains there.
This trip, in my opinion, is going to be a life changer for you, because all of that distraction goes away. It all goes away. The day-to-day, the work distractions, the phone, the emails, all go away. You get to be present where you're at and really enjoy that. Have some different conversations with people in a different part of the world. See different things that you don't get to see. Man, I'm so excited for you.
My biggest curiosity is the different perspective that comes with taking this trip and then coming back and seeing that completely different part of the world and experiencing that. And then what does it feel like to come back? Having turned everything off for a while, what does that feel like? Having seen a completely different culture, realizing the wealth and blessings that I take for granted every day, like all of that, to come back to this from there. There's a lot of unknowns that come with that. What does it feel like to come back? I don't have an answer for that. So, but
you're going to come back with, I think, some different and clear definition of certain terms. What is love? What is wealth? What is life?
I think along those lines, the clarity that's going to come from turning everything off for a while and, like, turning off all the noise. Like, I had a conversation on Wednesday about that, where I have a hard time getting quiet. I have a really hard time getting quiet. Like, if you're in my office during the day, there's music on all the time. There's rarely a time, if it's not forced, like I wake up, I'm going to meditate for a while or pray or whatever I'm going to do. If it's not forced that I'm going to create space for quiet, there's rarely quiet in my life. And I have cultivated an environment that's loud. And so, yeah, right. Exactly. That's exactly it. And so, to get quiet is going to be fun and uncomfortable. It goes back to putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and being, like, open to whatever comes on the other side of that. So
what's the legacy you're hoping to build by this, through this trip?
I think the legacy I'm trying to build, I think part of it goes toward my kids. I want my kids to see me taking some risks and doing some things that are outside of my comfort zone. I want them to see that so they make room for that in their own lives, and they're open to that. I think that's a big one. And I think just seeing the world, like I've traveled, I've done some traveling, but just seeing, like, every time I go to a different part of the world, like I did a trip to Panama a while back, and that reminds me a little bit of this trip, because it was definitely outside my comfort zone and into a new spot. And every time I leave and I go back on a trip like that, I come back different, and I approach the world I'm in different, and the people that I'm with differently. And that's actually one of the things I'm excited about. I'm excited for how it's going to make me better to come back and be a better husband, dad, business partner, leader. Like, I don't know exactly what the legacy is going to be, but I know there's going to be a ripple effect to this that's going to go for a while. So,
yeah. And I would challenge you and our listeners and myself we don't have to travel halfway around the world to experience those things. How can we slow down, pause, experience new things in our everyday environment? Because the reality is, if we stop and look around, those experiences are everywhere. We got to get out of our own way. We got to get out of our own way.
They're all over the place. Yes. And the reality of it is, a trip like this comes around every so often, but to your point, we have opportunities to experience new things, try new things, take risks. Those are not only in situations like going to Nepal. That's a big example of that, but there's so many good small examples of that where we can just incorporate that and weave it into our lives on a regular basis. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the trip. I leave in a little while. I'm excited to go. Like I said, a little bit of anxiety. I'm anxious about a few things. I don't know if I call it anxiety, but it's just different ways to label the same stuff. But I'm excited to go. I'm excited, and I'll have good stories when I come back. So
absolutely. Hey, question for you.
Hmm?
We've got these shirts and hats on today. Where can people go to get these?
Go to the website. Visit us at gritmeetsgrowth.com. The apparel is there. It's awesome apparel. It has it's become a staple in my wardrobe. And
yeah, there's all kinds of information out there. There's some blog information and some other thoughts. There's all the episodes are accessible right there on the website as well. And beautiful pictures of John and I, and some great apparel that you too can own.
When it's a way to support this community. Like, it's a way to support the podcast. It's a way to support these conversations. And we appreciate you guys diving in and being part of this. This is not, I think one of the things I'd like to say on that note is, this is not the Chris and John show. This is about a community of people who want to grow, who want to include grit in their lives, who are willing to get uncomfortable. And if that's you and you're listening to this and you're like, this fits me, we just want you to know how much we appreciate having you on board.
Right on.
All right.
Make it a great day and get after it.
See you later, man. And that wraps it up for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being part of the Grit Meets Growth tribe. And thanks for growing along with us and being part of this journey together. If you know someone who needs to hear the conversation we had today, please share it. If you got something out of this conversation, please leave us a review. And finally, if you want to make sure you don't miss future episodes, just remember to subscribe. We're thankful for each and every one of you. And as my co-host and good friend Chris Cathers always says, make it a great day.